how did the Coalesce gig come about then?
So that was just Nathan. They were. It's funny enough. Like every 3 or 4 years, he would hit me up and be like, "I think Coalesce is going to do some stuff. Like, can you learn these songs?" And 10 years ago, I was like, "Yeah, of course." And like I studied like 3 songs he gave me, and like nothing happened. And then like 3 years later, same thing. So it got to a point where I was like, "Nothing. This isn't. Nothing's going to happen."
Yeah.
And I was just like, So this last time I was like, yeah, 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 I'll do it, of course. And then sure enough, like they were like, they booked gigs and like it was going to happen. So I was like, well, now I have to learn a lot of songs. I think we ended up learning like 21 songs or something like that all
Damn.
together. Um, we did them in chunks of 5. So I
Okay.
could, it wasn't like all at once, like trying to take all that in.
Right. Damn,
But
dude.
yeah, it was all through Nathan. He just, he's been trying to get me involved with it since they started talking about doing it again. And Jess, the guitar player, was jazzed. He's like, yeah, if Jeff's doing it, I'm down. So I went from there, and known Sean and all those guys for years. So um,
Crazy. Was it, I mean, because some of it coalesces, first of all, I should preface it by saying it's super interesting, as I mentioned, like to be a band like in the mid 90s doing some of the heavy music that I think that, or that for sure preceded everybody from Botch, Dillinger, Candiria, Cave In, Converge, Poison the
yeah,
Well, ISIS, Norma Jean, Every Time I Die, Mastodon was even later. Like all of that heavy music that I was into in the late 90s, early 2000s. The timeline is super interesting for bands like Coalesce, or especially for like Dead Guy, who even was like
yeah,
possibly even a little bit earlier than Coalesce
yeah,
of playing this like abrasive, heavy, fucking kind of techie music.
yeah.
But was getting into some of those songs. I'm assuming some of the parts where threw you for a loop at times with some of
Oh yeah,
the meters and everything.
they still do.
Yeah,
um, yeah, I had never done anything like it. Like it was like there were moments where I was like, "Am I sure I can do this? Like, is this like?"
yeah,
And like Nathan kept reassuring. He's like, "Yeah, you're better than I am, and I learned I know how to play all this shit." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah, it was very interesting. It was a totally different way of learning the songs than I've learned any other song. Like it was all patterns, and like
right.
because I don't count things. I never count. If anybody's like, "What time is that?" I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like, how's it feel? Like, I would just feel things out. So it was interesting to kind of listen to these songs over and over again and get the pattern stuck into my head, like,
sure.
and basically memorizing the drums. Um, and then it helped that, me and Nathan would practice just bass and drums together, um, and just get the rhythm section as solid as possible,
Right.
which comes in handy because you never know what Jess and Sean are going to do live. Like they go ape shit. So
Right.
it's up to us to like keep those songs together.
Yeah.
um, but it's been super fun. Like it was really like I was like I want to challenge. Like I want to challenge myself, and it definitely was that.
Yeah, for real, man. I mean, Coalesce is also interesting for being sort of noted with being a pretty volatile band live.
Yeah.
Were you able to see them back in the day? Interestingly
Oh
enough,
yeah.
they're never. I saw like all the other kind of aforementioned bands at one point or another. I never somehow really saw Coalesce, though I was familiar and or had recordings of them, but I
Yeah.
actually never saw them.
No, I saw them a bunch back in the day. I wouldn't say a bunch, but I saw them a number of times back in the day. And then during when they got back together in when was that? Like the 2009, 2011
Hmm.
era. Um, I saw them more during that time because I
Okay,
was living in New York then, and they played out there a couple of times. So,
right.
and I was closer with Nathan and uh, Nathan Richardson, the drummer, who was playing with him then. So I made more of an effort to go see him because I knew those two guys really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got to see him, and it was always a real treat.
I bet. I mean, it's pretty wild. Especially, I mean, if you think about like functioning on impatience coming out in '97,
Yeah.
Again, that's just prior to a lot of stuff. I would have loved to have seen them back then, although, again, with the sort of reputation of the shows at the time, I feel like I might have been a little, I would have definitely stood pretty far towards the back.
Yeah. Yeah. It hasn't changed too much.
Really?
Yeah, the shows have been pretty. New York, night two in New York was awesome. Like it was insane. Like there's some pretty good videos floating around of that. Um, they we sold it out. You know, it was us and Caven, and we sold the night out. And they're trying to like kick us out. Like we had like four songs left, and I saw them like flashing the lights like off to
Oh.
the side, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not stopping. And then like two songs left, they just turned the house lights on, so you could see like what was going on. And I was just like, holy shit, like it's ape shit right now. And then I look and it's like, oh, Jess, the guitar player, is in the middle, and people are just like swarming around him. I'm like, this is pretty cool. Like I'm glad they turned the lights on so like we could
Actually see what was going on in the crowd?
Yeah.
Damn, dude. Have they told you of any like particularly crazy shows early on?
um I mean, there's like one that comes up with everybody that was like in Wilkes Bar or something where um, they got blamed for throwing a floor tom at somebody, but in
Whose
reality,
whose floor
it,
tom was it?
it was theirs. But in reality, James, the drummer at the time, had like trashed his kit, and somebody in the front row grabbed the floor tom and
And
just chucked it,
oh
and
shit.
it hit a girl,
Oh
and
no.
everybody got pissed at the band, but it ended up getting straightened out. But like that's one of those shows where it was just like, yeah, everybody hated them for a while after that show. It was like just like a huge misunderstanding. Like, but that one comes up a lot. They have a lot. They talk about a lot of shows, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, tell me more. Like, it's very interesting to me.
Right. Especially like I said, I mean, I can't quite wrap my head around, being in the mid 90s playing what they were playing. I'd imagine it was they were met with both for the people that were semi familiar with them, the small groups of those people were probably into it, but for
Oh
anyone
yeah.
who was completely unfamiliar with it must have been just petrified at what they were
Oh
doing.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, the first time I saw him, which would have been later '90s. Yeah, same thing. I was just like, what is this? Like,
Wow.
like, because I'd known Casket Lottery, and just seeing Nathan in this band, I was like, what? Like, it's impressive. Like, I was just like, this is awesome, but I don't know what it is. Like, I don't, like, I don't know, especially live because it was like insane. Like, it was like, because like they get, I guess we get, kind of pigeonholed in like hardcore or metal, but
Uh-huh.
we're just like we're a noise punk band, you know?
Yeah.
Like we're a fucking noise band, like more than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that. Yeah, there's some similarities there with like I would imagine. I mean, I mentioned Dead Guy earlier. I think
Yeah,
Fixation on a Coworker came out in like '95, so they're from Jersey. You have like Unsane doing their thing early '90s out in New York.
yeah,
So I suppose there was maybe between some of those kind of noisier, abrasive bands that were, a few years prior to Coalesce. I suppose
yeah,
those would have been some of those potential influences, although I think ultimately Coalesce did something else that ended up influencing kind of its own subgenre, which would be called everything what you've heard at all,
yeah.
mathcore, hard,
Mathcore,
yeah, post-hardcore. I don't even know,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, have they mentioned like any bands that they were into when they were starting out necessarily, or is it kind of just some of what I mentioned even, or just those
Yeah, I mean
early
a little bit of
subgenres?
that. I always forget like when they talk about like they love Neurosis and like
Sure.
I'm trying to remember. I'm blanking now, but like the band they did like the first split with, which I'm like completely just drawing a blank. Um, but like like Jess loves Metallica. That's like his favorite band.
Right.
So it's just like, like how do you get from that to this? But
Yeah, that's a bit of a derivation.
but that's just like his mind. That's how where his mind goes. Like he's just very interesting guy, and like, yeah, it's fun. It's cool to watch him work, and we've been working on new stuff too. And so it's like, all right, this is. I see how you guys do this. Like it's,
Right. And
but
having learned the back catalog, it's something that I often ask drummers, especially when you're dealing with a band that spans many years, many albums, etc.
yeah,
I feel like in learning a lot of that, you inevitably end up sort of with some of those, the patterns of the former drummers sort of in your DNA. And even if it's unconscious, you'll
yep,
probably be sort of respecting to some of that to some degree, but also in writing new material, you've got to sort of go with your instincts to do what you do too. So it's
yeah,
always kind of a balancing act in that regard.
absolutely, yeah. What he's because he'll just send riffs. It's just a video of him sitting in his basement, like sitting on the floor, and like, hey, check this out. Because he lives in St. Louis. The rest of us are in Kansas City,
Okay.
and Sean's in Lawrence. Um, but yeah, he'll send riffs over. So when I'm thinking of things, I'm just kind of like, if that does happen, like, okay, that's kind of similar to this. Like, what did they do on that? Like, what was the rhythm that they did on this, or like, what was the kick drum pattern? Like, but
Yeah.
I'll try and like come up with my own thing. But I will do that for sure. Just kind of like, well, let's make it sound like Coalesce,
Yeah. Yeah.
as much as I can.
Yeah. Were you like fairly versed in double bass? Because there's definitely some like double bass breakdowns
No,
here and there. No, or in Coalesce, or was it never
there,
double?
no, there, no, there is. I
There
just
is.
refuse. I refuse to do it.
Or you just do floor tom single
I
foot
got,
like digga digga
yeah,
digga 16th
yep,
notes?
yeah.
There
I
you go.
they I I borrowed my buddy Chris Todd in Brooklyn. We shared a practice space, and he had a double kick pedal when I first started learning this stuff. And I was like, "Can I borrow that just for like the day?" And like, I'm gonna mess around with it and see like if I can even do it. And I swear to God, it was on my kit for maybe 2 minutes, and I was like, "Nope, I can't. This is gonna take me forever to like." I could do patterns all day on my hi hat, but like it's just like it just feels so weird and like
Yeah.
nah. The snare felt like I was like, nah, I put a floor like a little like dead like bass drum sounding tom to my left too. So I'll do a lot of like between my left hand and right foot. But there isn't a ton of double bass. There was a couple songs that were getting kicked around and I listened to them and I was like, there's probably too much double bass in that for us to do it. And like everybody's like, yeah, it's fine. We won't do it.
Right.
So but so the majority of the stuff we're doing, there isn't very much, except for a little like which you can just do triplets on a single
Sure.
pedal. Like you
Right.
can
Right.
cheat,
Right.
can cheat
Yeah.
your way through
Yeah.
that.
Damn, dude. I love it how you said in 2 minutes you decided. I'm 10 years into double bass and I'm like, it's still like a pain in my ass.
Yeah,
And like if you just don't stay on top of it, which I generally don't, I wait until
yeah,
I have something that needs it, and then I'm like, now I have to learn that specifically. And
yeah,
yeah, it's a bitch. And if you start late and it wasn't in the sort of the formative years of your playing, I think it's especially hard. It's kind of like learning a language.
yeah,
The earlier you learn it as
absolutely.
you're learning that instrument, you're gonna be better at it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
at least the excuse I give myself. A
No, that's,
decade in and still not feeling very proficient at the fucking thing. But
I think that is 100% accurate. Like I was just, yeah, it's like learning a new language. That's spot on. Like, yeah, 2 minutes in, I'm like, this is gonna. I could just learn these songs and like, do the little cheats, and it would be faster than me trying to figure out how to play double bass right
right, right,
now.
crazy. That's wild, man. With Coalesce, what drums and or cymbal combination do you feel like kind of suits the music or feels and or feels good playing? You know?
So I've just been using um, my kit, which is just it's a indie um, out of Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Oh no, shit! I didn't even. I'm
Yeah.
familiar with Indie. I ordered their butt
Yeah.
plates and their throw offs for my
Yes.
snare drums.
Yes, they're the best.
Yeah.
So I have an all aluminum kit. Um, no wood at all. It's just all aluminum. There's no reinforcement rings or anything.
Damn.
The whole kit weighs like 30 pounds.
Wow.
It's awesome. But it's 14 rack tom, 16 floor tom, and 24-inch kick drum.
Nice.
And then I have a Gretsch. What do you call it? it's the uh, the brass
Oh,
cast,
oh yeah, you got the brass, the bell, like their bell
the
brass
bell
with
brass. Yes, thank you. Yeah, bell brass.
amazing,
Yeah,
sick.
yeah.
Yeah, those snare drums
Um,
are killer.
I used one at in. So there's two bands in New York I'm still kind of in, which is Benn with Artie, one of the old owners.
Artie,
Who,
oh yeah,
but
yeah, 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 of
yeah,
course. Yeah, I've heard the
um,
tracks from that. I really
yeah,
dig
yeah.
it. Yeah,
Oh, right on. Yeah, Chris Enriquez is playing now live for them since I'm
right.
out here,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then the Twin is another band which is also Artie's also in that. Our friend Brian and Mike from Candiria is playing bass.
Nice.
Um, but so the Twin was recording, and the we did it at Timber Studios in Jersey, and
Okay.
they had a bell brass scratch there, and like halfway through the session, I was like on reverb, just like, all right,
Yeah.
like, I gotta get this. Like, this thing's so badass.